He wasn't just my student, he was my son before I knew it. By Moonies_001 on AO3. Read by its_Kingston. Summary. Izuku Midoriya's life was shattered after his mother's tragic death in the fire, and he was placed in the foster system. Years later, despite excelling at UA High, his heart remained closed off from the world, fearing he'd never truly belong. Aizawa, his teacher, has always watched him carefully, but he never knew the truth. Izuku was a child of the system, abandoned and broken. When Aizawa discovers Izuku's past, he decides to take the leap and offer the boy the one thing he's never had: family. Chapter 1. Izuku is just a child when he's placed in the foster system following the tragic death of his mother in a villain attack. He recalls the horror of watching his mom get left behind by the heroes in the burning apartment, feeling helpless as she was taken from him. It's a moment that scars him deeply, and it marks the start of his disillusionment with heroes. Once full of admiration for the symbol of peace, Izuku's faith in heroes slowly fades as he finds himself in one foster home after another. He reflects on how each family didn't last long, some of them being distant, others abusive, none of them showing him the warmth he craved. Years pass, and Izuku feels like an outcast, never truly belonging. His heart remains closed off to the idea of love, and he quietly comes to terms with the fact that maybe heroes, or anyone, would never really save him. Eventually, he finds himself in UA High, where he meets the teachers, including Aizawa, who's indifferent but capable. Despite being surrounded by so many students, Izuku still feels like he's alone. He can't shake the fear of becoming just another forgotten kid in a system that only sees him as a case number. Aizawa watches Izuku carefully his first few days at UA, noticing the boy's nervous energy, his willingness to please, and the way he holds himself back, as if he's waiting for something bad to happen. Aizawa doesn't know much about Izuku's backstory, only that he's one of the students who showed the most promise, albeit with quirks that were still unstable and unpredictable. Aizawa's first impression is one of cautious observation. He doesn't expect much at first, thinking of him as just another student trying to fit into a world of heroes. But as the days go by, he finds himself drawn to Izuku's persistence, the fire he keeps hidden deep within. The kid doesn't give up, and something about that sticks with Aizawa. Aizawa never really considered adopting or fostering a child. His life was always consumed by his work as a hero, and he felt that he was too jaded to be a father. But after an emotionally taxing case, where a child was left abandoned due to parents dying in a villain attack, Aizawa finds himself reconsidering his stance. The thought of providing a stable, nurturing environment for a child crosses his mind, and the idea feels surprisingly right. He visits a few foster homes in his spare time, hoping to make a difference, but the more he sees, the more disillusioned he becomes. The children look lost, like they've given up on hope. He sees his own pain reflected in their eyes, but something keeps him searching for the right child, someone who feels like they need him, someone who could heal as he could. One quiet evening, Aizawa visits another orphanage. This one is smaller, quieter, and there's a heavy air of sadness around the place. As he walks through the halls, a familiar voice reaches his ears. He pauses, his heart stopped. The voice is unmistakable. Izuku's. Aizawa approaches the room cautiously, not quite understanding why he feels so unsettled. There, he sees Izuku, sitting alone in a corner, his eyes distant and his posture closed off, just like he looked the first time Aizawa met him at UA. But here, surrounded by other kids, Izuku doesn't look like the same hopeful student he'd come to know. He looks lost. Izuku doesn't notice Aizawa at first, but when he does, his face briefly shows a flicker of recognition before he shuts it down, his gaze dropping. Aizawa doesn't ask any questions, but his mind starts to race, piecing together what's happening. The pieces fall into place, and a deep, aching realization hits him. Izuku, his student, was part of the foster care system too. Aizawa stands there for a moment, feeling a mix of emotions he can't quite understand. Anger, sadness, guilt, and a growing need to protect. He spent months teaching Izuku, helping him grow, and yet he had no idea of the pain and loneliness Izuku was hiding behind his bright, hopeful facade. As Aizawa leaves the foster home that day, He can't shake the image of Izuku sitting there alone. Something about the whole situation feels wrong. Izuku deserves better than to be lost in the system. The next few weeks are a blur of thoughts and decisions. Aizawa talks with the proper authorities and finally makes the choice that will change both their lives. He knows Izuku has suffered too long, and it's time to offer him something he's never had. Family. He doesn't need to be a hero to help Izuku. He just needs to be there. When Aizawa tells Izuku, the boy's expression is unreadable, but Aizawa can see the spark of hope in his eyes, the same spark that had been buried under layers of fear and pain for so long. Izuku's voice trembles as he asks, You mean it? You want me to come with you? Aizawa doesn't hesitate. Yes, I want you to be my son. It's not going to be easy, but I'll do my best to help you. Izuku nods, his eyes welling up. It's the first time he's truly let himself feel anything since his mother's death. Izuku and Aizawa start their journey together, not just as teacher and student, but as father and son. The road is far from perfect, but both of them know that this is the start of something new. For Aizawa, fostering Izuku was never part of the plan, but it feels like the most natural thing in the world. And for Izuku, he's finally found someone who won't leave him behind. Chapter 2. The sparkle he saved and helped to grow. Izuku stared at the unfamiliar walls of Aizawa's apartment. It was quiet. Not cold like the group homes, not loud like the dorms at UA, just quiet. Aizawa had left him alone in the living room for a bit, giving him time to breathe, to adjust, to unpack, though Izuku hadn't brought much. Just a small duffel bag with his uniform, a few notebooks, and a worn photo of him and his mom. He sat on the edge of the couch, too afraid to lean back. The silence pressed on him. Then came the footsteps. You hungry? Aizawa asked casually as he walked in, holding 2 mugs of tea. Didn't know what you liked, so I guessed. Izuku took the cup with shaking hands. Thank you. Sir? Aizawa raised a brow, but didn't comment. Instead, he sat beside him, just far enough not to crowd, but close enough to be felt. You don't have to call me anything special, Aizawa said evenly, voice low. Not until you want to. Or, if you never want to. I'm not here to pressure you into some fake version of family. You're here because I want you to be. That's enough. Izuku stared into his tea. It smelled like chamomile. He hated chamomile, but he drank it anyway. The words wouldn't come easily, but they tugged at his throat like trapped tears. I don't know how to be someone's son anymore, Izuku whispered. Aizawa didn't flinch. He just looked at him, expression unreadable, but soft. That's okay. I don't really know how to be someone's dad either. Guess we'll just figure it out. That made something hitch in Izuku's chest. Not hurt, not fear, something gentler, something terrifying. Hope. Weeks passed, and Izuku didn't tell anyone at UA at first. The idea of explaining it, of facing the stares and the questions, made him sick. Only Nezu and Recovery Girl knew, though Aizawa suspected All Might had figured it out just by the way Izuku seemed a little lighter, more present. Aizawa gave him space, but also brought structure. They had dinner together when possible, and he started teaching Izuku things he didn't teach the other students, like how to budget, how to make soba, how to wrap a sprained wrist without panicking. They didn't call it bonding, they just did it. Some nights, Izuku woke up from nightmares, his mom's screams, the sound of collapsing buildings, the heat of the fire. He'd wander out into the hallway and find Aizawa still awake, sitting on the couch with a cat curled in his lap, grading papers. Can't sleep? Aizawa would ask. Izuku would shake his head, and Aizawa would simply pat the other side of the couch. No words, just quiet company. One night, Izuku asked, Why me? Aizawa blinked. What do you mean? There were other kids, better ones who probably smiled more, who weren't already broken. Aizawa's voice came steady and sharp. You're not broken, kiddo. And I didn't choose you because you smiled more. I chose you because you needed someone, and I did too. Izuku didn't speak after that. He just leaned his head on Aizawa's shoulder and stayed like that until he fell asleep. Eventually, it slipped out. Kaminari blurted it out at lunch one day after walking by Aizawa's office and seeing a form with Midoriya's name listed under Emergency Contact Guardian show to Aizawa. "You're living with Aizawa?" Kaminari shouted, nearly choking on his rice. Izuku froze. All eyes turned. He opened his mouth, then shut it, and Ochako reached out and gently touched his hand. "That's really nice, Deku." He nodded, small and unsure, but not afraid. No one made fun of him. No one whispered. They just accepted it. And when Eri ran up to hug him after class later that week and called him Big Brother, it kind of stuck. One night, near the end of the semester, Aizawa found a note on his desk. It wasn't much, just messy handwriting, scratched out and rewritten over and over. "Thank you for not leaving me. I'm still scared, but less when you're here. Signed, Izuku." Aizawa didn't cry. He rarely did. But he folded the note, tucked it into his coat pocket, and kept it close because Midoriya Izuku wasn't just his student. He was his son, long before either of them had realized it. That was, "He wasn't just my student, he was my son before I knew it," by Moonies_001 on AO3. Read by It's_Kingston on AO3. I think that's everything. Yep. Goodbye.